I'm Stacy Bond. I'm Director of Facilities, and we're going to go over our facility orientation and safety presentation. So this is really informal. You can ask questions at any point. Make requests. If I'm presenting something that reminds you of some issue you're having, let me know. I'll write it down. I wrote down things from the first session. So this is a good opportunity for me to get feedback from you, not just on safety and stuff, but anything that you have going on facility-wise. So it'll probably take us about 30 minutes to get through this. Is just talking about various attributes of our buildings, and then also just safety topics. So we'll start out with fire safety. Make sure that you know what your fire evacuation routes are. They're posted in each room. And also think about alternate routes in case the one that's published is blocked. You know, we're fortunate to have emergency exits in all the classrooms, so you have options. But think through your options of, you know, how you're going to get your kids out of the various routes and everything, so that if something happens, then you're ready to go. We do have occasional fire drills each year, and that gives you an opportunity to kind of walk through it and, you know, see how it works. So proper response for a fire drill or really any kind of emergency situation is to keep a clear mind, right? And step one is take a breath. Just take a moment to get yourself, you know, breathe in, say a prayer, and then at that point you need to evaluate your surroundings. What are the things that are going on around you that you know, you can see and you know that are happening? Things that are going on with your kids, and then rely on your training. So let's say we have the fire alarm goes off. You look around, okay, all my kids are in here, the alarm's going off, I don't smell any smoke, I don't see any fire. Okay, here's what I need to do. So evacuate, follow your training and evacuate and stay calm. You guys know this better than me. I've learned this with my own kids. If I get panicky, my kids get panicky. They read that, right? So I think the taking the breath, even if it takes you 2-3 seconds, it pays off in just being calm. All right, so let's talk about what kind of fire protection equipment we have in our buildings. First, we have fire extinguishers in every classroom. This one I pulled off the wall from right there. It's there. We put these in the classroom from a defense standpoint for being able to defend your class, but they're also there in case of a fire. So the only time you should ever try to put out a fire is if it is preventing you or your kids to get to safety. The building is going to take care of itself. Don't worry about it. Your priority is yourself and your kids. That would be the only time that you would fight a fire. So if you had a fire, say in that corner over there, and you had all your kids here, you can get out that door. Don't worry about the fire. Don't worry about the fire extinguisher. Just get the kids out. So if you were in a situation where you had to use a fire extinguisher to get yourself and your kids out, I'll go over a real simply how to use it. So this is what's called a dry powder. Make sure I'm not out of camera. Dry powder fire extinguisher. Dry powder is essentially baking soda. So there's 5 pounds of baking soda in here under pressure. You pull the little hose out. There's a pin right here that's held in by this little flimsy plastic thing, which will just rip right off. You rip that pin out. You squeeze these 2 handles together. Your baking soda will spray out of here, and you spray at the base of your flame. And so you have a lot of chemical in here. You can put out a really large fire with it. So you just keep spraying until the fire's out, get you and your kids out, and get to safety. So that's basically how it works. These are inspected each year to make sure that they're ready to go and work properly. All right. So in addition to the fire extinguisher, each classroom, every space has fire sprinkler nozzles. There's 4 of them in this room. You can kind of see the silver things in the corners. The way they work is they have a sensor that will sense temperature and open up and spray water. And so that's really here to protect the building after you've gotten out, basically. So it would be very rare for you to be in a space for those to go off. But typically, because people are out after that point. We also have smoke detectors. So there's a smoke detector in the center of this room. There's also smoke detectors in our air conditioning and heating system that would detect, let's say we had some component of that system catch on fire, it would detect that and set the system off. So we do have a fire alarm system. Everything's tied into that system for the whole campus, which if anything goes off, fire department is called immediately, and they're generally here within 5 minutes because they're just off of, they're not very far away. So that's an immediate response to that. Smoke detectors, we also have fire pull stations. So there's one right there. They're very simple to use. It says push in, and then you pull this down. Let's see if I can reset it. I probably can't reset it. It's very easy to use. It doesn't take a whole lot of force to pull that down. I actually dropped a broom handle on one a couple months ago and set it off. So it doesn't take a lot to set them off. So these are available to you. I would, I always tell people with the fire pulls, if in doubt, use it. If you're in this room and you smell fart, you smell smoke, see smoke, smell something, pull it, as you're walking out, pull it and get your kids out. Even if it was kind of a false alarm, it's worth pulling this. So don't be shy about pulling a fire pull. All right, so we also have a horn that goes off. So the little red square by the door over there, that's a horn, and it also has a strobe. And so if you've been here for a fire drill, you know it's pretty loud and flashy. We also have emergency exit signs in the 4 main entrance and exit doors. All right, you guys do a really good job of keeping our fire pulls clear, not putting things in front of them. Same thing with the alarm annunciator. So really, really good job. Typically in a child care facility or school, that's kind of an ongoing battle. But you guys have really developed a culture where you keep them clear, keep them free. I know when I've had the fire marshal here, he doesn't even look in all the classrooms. I mean, it's like a confidence that you guys have built with that. Questions about fire safety? All right, good. Okay, most common fire hazards. We'll kind of go through those. In this place, I would say it'd be electrical cords and outlets, as well as lights would be a source of a fire. HVAC equipment, which as I mentioned has its own smoke detector and would detect any kind of problem there. Crock pots, skillets, I know you guys don't use a lot of that, but again, another fire hazard. And then the last one, which is worth noting, is lightning. And so buildings do get struck by lightning and can cause fires. We had Building G got struck about 3 or 4 years ago. There was no fire, but it did take out some electrical equipment. So, that's something to be aware of. If we have an electrical storm and there's lightning strikes around and you smell something, it could be something serious. So, reach out, say something, hey, we might have a fire or whatever. So, and yeah, use your senses for early warning on fire hazards. Sense of smell can tell you a whole lot. Don't be shy about calling me or Danny if you smell something that smells like something burning. We'll come over here, we'll check it out. Your sense of touch is also really important in a fire evacuation. Before you ever go out, like say you're gonna exit that door, you obviously wanna look out your window, but also feel of things and make sure that it's not hot to the touch. So your senses are important. Okay, electrical safety. So some of the hazards that we have are electrical plugs. You guys do a great job of keeping those covered for the kids at all times. We have outlets that protect from electrocution at all the water, things that are close to water. So those are called ground fault interrupt. And so basically if it senses a short, an electrical short, it will turn off and it won't work. So Occasionally we have trouble with them and they need to be replaced. Again, that's a maintenance request that you can give us. But if you're having any kind of trouble with your outlets around the sink, that's a sign that we need to investigate that. So in the prior class, where the teacher said, yeah, I'm having trouble with mine, so I made a note. C115, we need to check that out and replace that. All right. So it's common to have to use extension cords because plugs aren't always where we need them. So one of the best practices with extension cords is to put a power strip on the end. So the power strip obviously gives you extra outlets. It's also an additional circuit breaker that's going to protect your core. So the rule of thumb with electrical cords is, let's say I'm going to plug in a toaster. You want to make sure that the extension cord that you're plugging into is at least as big as the cord on that toaster. So that way you know that you're not going to overheat your extension cord. So in terms of extension cords, bigger around is always better. And again, if you put a power strip on the end, it gives you protection, because if you plug too much into that power strip, it'll trip and it won't work. All right. All the rooms do have emergency lighting. So there's one light in here that will stay on for at least 20 minutes. Should we have a power failure? I know you guys work during the day, probably never happen. But we could have a dark day and need that lighting. But there is emergency lighting, and we do test it yearly. All right, electrical. Anything? Okay. I feel like I'm moving very fast here. So let's talk a little bit about heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So all this building and all our buildings on campus are designed to constantly bring in fresh outside air and then push out the old air. So in 30 minutes, all the air that's in this room will be completely replaced. So turns it over every 30 minutes, and the air that's brought in is filtered, so they're not bringing in a bunch of allergens and dust and dirt and that sort of thing. So that keeps the building breathing, essentially. And so we learned during COVID that that's really important. And so that's maintained and checked periodically. We did upgrade our air filters right after the pandemic. So we have the highest level of filtration that we can possibly get. Will it trap some pathogens? Yes, but it's mostly about dust control and keeping the allergens down too. Okay, so each room has a thermostat, and you can see it. There's a thermostat over there next to the door. You can adjust your temperature up 1 degree warmer, and then if you go down, that's 1 degree cooler. Most of the rooms are set at 72 for cooling and 68 for heating. So, and then you can adjust 1 degree either way. But if you're not comfortable, give us a maintenance request and we'll check it out. It could be something wrong with the system, or we found some people, maybe 68 degrees heating just isn't warm enough, right? I know in my house, if I turn it down to 68 heating, everybody complains. So I gotta run more 70. So we want you guys to be comfortable. That's what's important. All right, talked about thermostats. Any issues or concerns with your heating and cooling? You guys are easy. The other group, they gave me all kinds of things to do. All right, so next topic is disinfection. So, since the pandemic, we've kind of gone from doing a whole lot of disinfection techniques to now a more reasonable approach to it. I'm not going to go into great detail of that because now I think we have a pretty simple process. We've standardized on one product. It's called Hilliard QT Plus, or it's number 24. All their products are numbered. Makes it simple for my guys to remember. It has a dwell time of 3 minutes, which means basically it needs to be wet for at least 3 minutes to get a good kill. And so the 3 minutes was an improvement over a prior chemical that we had that was, I think, in the range of 5 minutes. The microfibers do a better job of just actually cleaning. You know, will they remove more pathogens? Probably not, but they're gonna remove more dirt, and the more dirt you remove from the surface, the better that disinfectant can work. And so we made that transition during the pandemic, and I think it was a pretty wise move. We have the two different colors. We have the blue, which we do disinfection with, and then the green is typically food, water, whatever. If you got them mixed up, it's really not a big deal. We also have a red cloth that my team uses, but that's restrooms only. So you should never see a red microfiber. All right, questions on disinfection? Yes.
I'm confused on whether after we put the PT on, we just let it dry. We don't have to rinse that off?
I'm not sure. At one point we were rinsing it.
Some say yes and some say no.
We have rinsed changing tables or like feeding tables where children are eating right off the table, like in the infant
So we
rooms.
should rinse,
So
use water.
just to reduce that chemical load going into their digestive system or through the school. Older kids aren't putting their mouth in things as much, but they still do. So yeah, for the infant rooms, we're recommending using water in between that QT.
Yeah, QT.
After the QT, use the water.
Good. I couldn't remember where we were at on that. Because at one point we had this really complex process, and so now we.
The spray, the big spray thing we use, does that have the same stuff in it? Okay, so when we spray it on the toys, then we gotta rinse all the toys too?
If you teach infants, yes. And so, yeah.
Good questions, yes.
Well, I've been here a year, but I hear conflicting things, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it's good.
I guess go one more time.
All right, so we'll talk about pests. You know, we have a child care facility where we got a lot of food, and so that attracts bugs. And so we do have a regular pest control program with a company that we've been with for years. They periodically come out and treat the exterior of the building as well as the interior. Our philosophy on pest control is we want to use the least amount of chemical that gets the job done. We want to, you know, keep the exposure down to a minimum. And so how we deal with that is if we do see bugs, roaches, ants, spiders, report it, and then they'll come out and treat that situation. So we'd rather take that approach than, you know, gosh, let's spray every other day or something. So that reduces our chemical exposure for you guys and the kids as well. The bugs, like ants and roaches, they're more after water typically than they are food. So especially during the summer. So during the summer, we'll probably get a lot more reports of ants and roaches because they're looking for water. So if you have, for example, a faucet that's dripping, that's something to turn in a maintenance request and just eliminate that because that's gonna attract them. Any kind of water accumulation, you want to avoid that. And then, you know, you guys do a good job of keeping the food cleaned up. I think you have a really good practice of that here. So I know we do have issues with spiders occasionally, and again, just report those, and then we'll have those treated. So in addition to the insects and we also have animals on the outside. So we have some sonic devices around the perimeter of the building and the playground just to keep them away. And so basically we just don't want them using the restroom, using our playground as a restroom, and generally keeping them away. But we do have, squirrels, raccoons, possums. We have a fox family on our 48 acres here. And so we're kind of trying to live with them, but also not let them be anywhere close to the kids. So should you ever see an animal during the day, like a fox, or we actually had a coyote a couple times that we spotted, you know, give me or Danny a call, because that's not normal. So we do occasionally have to trap because things kind of get out of control. So one of the things that we learned was those sonic devices do a great job, but they run off all the predators. And so then the squirrel population kind of gets out of control. So it's kind of a give and take, but again, it's really about making sure that the people here are safe and that we don't have animals like rats and stuff in the building. All right. So now just a few general topics. All the bookcases, file cabinets, furniture that you have in your room should be attached to the wall. So it's not tipping hazard. So if it's not, give us a maintenance request, or if you decide, hey, I want to move this bookcase, we'll have to re-anchor it. But that's really important to prevent the things from tipping on you or the kids. Avoid stacking things too high on top of your bookcases and everything.
Is
So-
it 12 inches or, I remember y'all said like the inch number.
Oh, yeah, so it has to be, it's actually 24 inches from the ceiling. It has to be clear.
Okay.
And that's so that the fire sprinklers work. So that if you had a fire, that stuff wouldn't fly. Good, that's good. All right, hazardous chemicals and gases. So first, keep all the chemicals away from your kids, away from food. Goes without saying. For our cleaning chemicals, like the number 24 and the number 39, we do keep records on what's called safety data sheets, which is basically, it tells you everything about that chemical. Should a child have a reaction or a child ingest one of those chemicals, we can get to that really quickly and give it to emergency responders or doctors or whatever to help them with that. The 24 and 39, the 24 is the disinfectant, the QT+, and then the 39 is a general cleaner called Suprox. It's a peroxide-based cleaner. And so we're really careful about picking these two chemicals because you could mix them, you wouldn't want to, you could mix them, but would not be anything hazardous at all. So the number 39 is just a good general cleaner. It's not a disinfectant. And so that's the disinfectant you need to use at 24. So I know in the earlier session, they asked, do we have anything like stronger to clean the floors? Like, because they felt like the 39 wasn't cleaning well. So we have to be careful with what products we use on the floor. You could use just like a little bit of dish soap if you had something that the Suprox wouldn't take off. We don't want to use any kind of Clorox or chlorine, anything like that on the wax floor because it'll turn it yellow, or not yellow, it'll turn it hazy, kind of make it white looking. And I know also you guys have other kind of off-the-shelf products that you use. As long as those products have a label on them, there's no issue with that. And I guess along with labels, all your spray bottles should have a label on them. So I've ordered more labels for the 24 and 39, but make sure all your spray bottles are labeled, even if it's water. Like I know this one here is marked water, so then you know exactly what's in it. Okay, yeah, obviously don't mix chemicals. You can create some really, really dangerous combinations. That's okay. All right, so I always talk a little bit about natural gas. We don't have any natural gas in this building, but it's good to talk about natural gas safety. So if you ever, how many of you smelled natural gas before?
Oh.
So it has a very unique smell, and that's actually a chemical that's added to the gas to make it smell that way. It's a very, very small amount of that chemical kind of gets your attention. So if you smell natural gas, the safest thing to do if you're in a building is just simply get out of that building, get to fresh air. Don't turn off anything that would cause a spark, but just exit the building, get out, get to safety, get to fresh air, and call 911. That's your safest thing to do. Like I say, we don't have any natural gas in this building. We do occasionally get smells here that smell like natural gas that come from our sewer. And so, again, report those quickly so we can investigate it. But if if you smell that, it would be sewer gas. The other gas that is always a concern to me, Bill, is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a product of burning or combustion. So any kind of like space heater, your car, those sorts of things that have a combustion process make carbon monoxide. So we don't have anything in this building that would create carbon monoxide. We do have to have the carbon monoxide detectors just because it's code, and it's just a good practice. So, you know, just be aware of that. You know, in your home, if you don't have one in your home, I'd recommend you getting one. You can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot. They're a good safety measure to have. They're not typically very expensive. All right, any questions? Okay. So one of the things I added in this session is ladder safety. While I know you guys are not on ladders like every day, you may be on a ladder in home. Occasionally, like at Christmas or decorating, you guys have a small ladder to use. And I guess by ladder, I'm talking about anything that has more than 2 steps on it. So I want to go over some real basic ladder safety rules. Ladder falls are the #1 workplace injury, and it's either #1 or #2 in the home. So I think it's worth talking a little bit about. Here on campus, we have a policy that if you're going to be on a ladder, you need to have a ladder buddy. Have somebody there that's going to steady the ladder for you, but also kind of hold you accountable to make sure you're not doing something unsafe. And so like me and my team, a lot of times it's the common thing that will happen to us is I'm Danny's holding the ladder, I'm on the ladder, my phone rings, I pull my phone out, I start talking on my phone. Well, part of Danny's job is, hey, either get off the ladder and talk on the phone, or hang up the phone, but you can't do both. So there's an accountability part to that buddy system there. So first thing, before you get on the ladder, and this may sound silly, but make sure you're feeling well. So like I take an antihistamine occasionally that kind of makes me maybe a little dizzy, right? So in that case, I should not be on a ladder. But make sure that you're feeling stable and feel confident to get on the ladder. First thing you want to do is make sure that your ladder is in good condition. You don't have anything that's cracked or rivets that are missing or anything that's broken at all. You want to make sure that it's completely safe. Nothing is bent or anything like that. You want to set your ladder up properly. And by that, you want to extend that and lock these. So all ladders will have some kind of mechanism here that holds the legs out with a lock on it. And so you need to make sure that that's locked. And so that isn't locked. And so what can happen is then, as I climb on this ladder, I could make it fold up like that. So that's really important. And make sure that your ladder is nice and stable on a flat surface. Again, that's where your ladder buddy is important, to stand there and hold your ladder. So yeah, make sure your ladder's set up properly. You need to pick the right size ladder so that you're never higher than the second rung from the top. And so for here in childcare, if you have something where you would need a ladder this tall, I really want you to call me and my team, and we'll come over and we'll help you. Even if it's just taking mats down or taking some off the shelf, I'd rather do that than have you guys get on a ladder that's maybe too small or whatever. So that's kind of a rule of one of the best ladder safety measures is just stay off ladders. And so like in the maintenance world, one of the great things about the LED lights is, not only do they lower your electricity costs, but they keep people off ladders. And so we have had ladder accidents, and they can be very expensive and can be life-changing. I've worked in the industrial world, and I've seen people, had friends, coworkers, that, a minor fall causes them the rest of their life some issue, limited mobility or whatever. So it is a big deal. And when you're climbing your ladder, make sure that you stay centered over your ladder. Don't lean too far out, that sort of thing, and safely climb down. Those are just some real simple tips that would prevent most ladder accidents. Questions? All right. All right, almost done, we're almost there. So a couple other workplace hazards that I want to mention. Use proper lifting techniques. I mean, a lot of you are handling kids all day, so you could probably teach me a thing or two about that. You know, lift with your legs, not your back. Try to stay, not, overexert, lean too much. As I've gotten older, I've learned to be a little bit smarter with heavier things. Ask for help. You know, us men are not good at that, but if it's something that's really heavy, ask for help. I've also learned, don't set really heavy things on the floor. Set them on a table where you can pick them up. But, think about lifting techniques and particularly things that you have to do over and over and how that can affect you. So another workplace hazard is slipping or tripping. You have a water spill on the floor, somebody spills their coffee. Make sure that gets cleaned up quickly, or if you don't have time, just put a chair over it. At least someone will avoid that. The third one is what's called walking into injuries. It's basically where somebody's not paying attention and somebody opens the door and hits them, or people have been hit by cars. It's typically, we get distracted on our phone. And so I tell a story of, I had a place where I used to work, we had a big internal yard where we could drive occasionally and pick up things. And I was driving very slowly, and this person was on their phone, and they literally, I stopped. I came to a stop in my vehicle, and they walked into my truck. And I was like, wow, because they were on their phone. So it can happen. I mean, I've done that in my own home before. So just be aware of that, particularly out in the parking lot. Just be aware. And then the last item is unsafe or recalled nursery products, toys, and equipment. So you guys have a system for keeping track of that. So that kind of addresses like all the common hazards that we would have in a child care facility. All right, well that is what I have for a presentation. I'm open to questions, requests, feedback.